Have you ever found yourself maybe daydreaming about retirement? You know, picturing that beautiful, sunny place where your money, your hard-earned savings go further and where you feel, well, genuinely safe and looked after. It's a pretty common dream, right?
It certainly is. A lot of people share that vision.
And for a long time, Portugal has been right up there, a top contender for making that dream real. But if you've been keeping an eye on things, you'll know there have been some pretty significant changes lately,
Right.
especially around taxes.
That's right. The tax landscape has shifted.
So the big question now, I suppose, is does Portugal still have that same pull for retirees thinking about moving in 2025? Today, we're doing a deep dive into that very question. We're looking at Portugal's appeal now. We've got this source outlining like 15 compelling reasons why it might still be Europe's second best spot, even with those tax changes everyone's talking about.
Yeah, even without the NHR program.
Exactly. Our mission today is to figure out what really makes Portugal tick for retirees now. Is it still worth considering, even though that non-habitual resident, the NHR program, it's close to new folks?
It's definitely true that things have changed for new retirees heading over. That specific NHR tax advantage isn't on the table anymore. But what's really interesting, I think, is seeing how Portugal is leaning into its other strengths that still make it a very attractive option.
Okay.
It's less about just that one tax perk now and more about the whole package.
Yeah.
The quality of life.
Right. Okay, let's unpack that big change first, because the NHR, that was a huge draw, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Massive.
Offering tax-free foreign pensions or that flat 10% rate. So we know it closed end of 2023 for new applicants. And there was that small window for transitional applications ending March 31st, 2025. So that door's basically shut. What's replaced it, and who's it really for?
Well, the replacement is called the Tax Incentive for Scientific Research and Innovation, or IFI. It launched December 2024. But here's the key thing. The sort of NHR 2.0 is really aimed squarely at working professionals, in specific high-value fields. It's not primarily designed for retirees.
Ah, okay, so not a direct replacement for the retirement benefit.
Exactly. So for new residents planning to retire there, their foreign pensions will now generally fall under Portugal's standard progressive tax rates. And those rates, they range pretty widely, from about 14.5% up to 48%.
Wow, that's quite a jump from 10% or zero.
It is. However, there is still an annual tax exemption for retirees. It's around €4,500, roughly 4,462. That does provide some relief.
Okay, so that's a significant shift. Given the NHR is gone, why is Portugal still holding its ground, especially compared to, say, Spain or France? What does our source say makes up for losing that big tax draw?
Yeah, that's the fascinating part. What our source points to is how Portugal leverages its other advantages, particularly the structure of its tax system overall. Think about France, for instance. Yeah. They have that wealth tax on properties over 1.3 million.
Right.
Or Spain, where you've got all those different regional tax variations, which can get, well, complicated.
Italy, too, I imagine.
Italy, too, similar complex regional systems. Portugal, in contrast, offers a pretty transparent, unified national tax system. Crucially, no wealth taxes. And property taxes are relatively low and consistent across the country.
Okay, so simplicity and predictability, that's valuable in itself when you're managing retirement funds.
Absolutely. It can be a huge plus, a real relief compared to navigating more complex systems elsewhere.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Here's where it gets, I think, really interesting for your wallet, even beyond the specific tax rates. Our sources keep highlighting Portugal's cost of living. Just how attractive is it?
It's still one of the most attractive in Europe, definitely. If you're coming from the U.S., the figures suggest it's about 35% cheaper overall.
35%?
Yeah. And compared to neighbors like France, it's around 29% lower and about 28.5% cheaper than Germany.
So that raises the question, doesn't it? How much further can your retirement savings actually go there? Can we put some numbers on that?
You can get a pretty good idea. The source suggests for a comfortable lifestyle for a single person, you might budget around $1,200 to $1,400 a month in the smaller cities or towns.
Okay.
If you're looking at Porto, maybe $1,400 to $1,600. Lisbon being the capital is a bit more, perhaps $1,600 to $1,800.
The Algarve, that's always popular.
Right, the Algarve, maybe $1,500 to $1,700 per month. And it's important to stress, these budgets aren't just for basics. They typically cover rent, utilities, internet, food, eating out sometimes, local transport, healthcare costs, entertainment, leisure, the whole package.
That sounds incredibly comprehensive for those amounts. And where do the biggest savings come from day to day?
Well, looking at the breakdown, groceries can be 30–40% lower than the U.S. Eating out at restaurants, maybe 35–45% less.
Wow.
Utilities, like electricity and water, often 25–30% cheaper. And local transportation, maybe 40–50% lower.
So these aren't just abstract percentages. This really translates into, well, more money in your pocket each month, potentially a better quality of life without breaking the bank.
Exactly. More disposable income, more freedom.
Okay, affordability is obviously huge. But retirement planning, it's about more than just money, isn't it? Let's talk about peace of mind, health, safety. What's the picture there?
Our source mentions Portugal's healthcare ranks really well globally.
It does. It's ranked 23rd overall in the 2024 World Index of Healthcare Innovation. And it gets particularly high marks for quality, where it's 11th, and, quite impressively, 3rd globally for its healthcare infrastructure.
Third for infrastructure. That's significant. So what does that mean in practice for retirees?
Well, if we connect this back to the bigger picture, it's about ensuring that high quality of life we mentioned. A key part is the National Health Service, the SNS. For legal residents over 65, healthcare through the SNS is essentially free.
Yes. For those under 65, they're usually just small co-payments for consultations, maybe €5 to €15. And prescription drugs are heavily subsidized, often covering anywhere from 10% to 85% of the cost.
And you don't need to have worked in Portugal for that?
No, there's no employment requirement. You just need to be a legal resident, have your NIF number, that's the tax ID, and your residence permit.
Okay. And what if you prefer private healthcare? Is that readily available and affordable?
Yes, very much so. There's a robust private system. Monthly premiums can range maybe 30 up to 300 or so. For comprehensive coverage for a couple in their 60s, you might be looking at around €300 a month.
That sounds reasonable for private cover?
It is, compared to many places. You've got major providers like Maybes, Multicare, Advanced Care. They often have English-speaking staff, shorter waiting times for appointments and procedures. So it's a very viable alternative or supplement to the public system.
And is there support specifically for older residents? Geriatric care?
Absolutely. Portugal has put effort into this. There are dedicated senior health centers, home health care programs, they call it SAD, plus over 200 residential care facilities and day centers that offer social activities and support.
That sounds quite comprehensive. Okay, so healthcare looks strong. What about safety? That's always a top concern.
Another major plus for Portugal. The source puts it as the 7th safest country in the world in the 2024 Global Peace Index.
7th. That's incredibly high.
It is. And the trend is positive. They saw a 4.6% decrease in crime recently. The violent crime rate is remarkably low, zero point 0.7 per 100,000 people.
Wow.
And maybe more telling for daily life, 83% of people report feeling safe walking alone at night.
That says a lot.
It really does. And there are even specific legal protections that enhance safety for residents over 65.
So what does this all mean for your actual peace of mind living there?
It means you can genuinely feel secure in most places. Of course, common sense is always needed, especially in bigger cities, like anywhere. But the data paints a picture of a very safe environment overall. Certain regions are known for being exceptionally safe. The Algarve, the Azores Islands, Madeira, and many parts of rural Portugal have extremely low crime rates.
And help is accessible if needed.
Yes, the universal emergency number is 112. And importantly, they offer support in English.
Good to know. Okay, let's try and picture the daily life then. Beyond the budget and the practical stuff like healthcare, what's the lifestyle like? Portugal's famous for its weather, right?
Oh, definitely. That's a huge draw. You're looking at over 300 days of sunshine annually, on average.
300 days? Sounds good to me. Does it vary much across the country?
It does, quite a bit, which is great because you can choose what suits you. Down in the Algarve, think classic Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Summers averaging around 87 degrees air or 30 degrees C. Mild winters around 59 degrees of air, 15 degrees C.
Right.
Perfect for beaches, golf. Then you have Lisbon in the nearby coast, like Cascais. It's moderated by the Atlantic, so maybe 50 to 85 degrees of air at 10 to 30 degrees C through the year. You get nice breezes.
And up north, Porto.
Porto and the north are generally cooler, a bit more rain, which makes it very green and lush. Beautiful landscapes.
And Madeira, the island.
Ah, Madeira. They call it the Island of Eternal Spring. It's remarkably stable. Temperatures mostly stick between 61 and 73 degrees Centigrade. That's about 23 degrees all year round. Very mild.
Sounds lovely. And beyond the weather, there's the culture, isn't there?
Absolutely. It's steeped in history. Portugal has 15 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. You've got the historic centers of Porto, Avora, Guimarães, the amazing landscape of Sintra near Lisbon. So much to explore.
And things happening year-round, festivals and events.
Definitely. The calendar is pretty packed. There's a student festival, Queima das Fitas, in May, which is
Yeah.
huge in cities like Coimbra. June has the Santos Populares street parties, especially in Lisbon and Porto. August often features medieval fairs. September is wine harvest time. There's always something going on.
And for activities, what do people do?
Well, golf is massive, with those 300-plus playing days. There are over 440 blue-flagged beaches for swimming, sunbathing, walking. On Madeira, the Levada walks along the irrigation channels are incredible. And of course, you have to experience fado, that unique Portuguese music.
Sounds like plenty to keep you busy.
Yeah.
Now, what about finding your people, integrating? Are there established expat communities?
Yes, this is another real strength. Portugal has very mature expat communities and the infrastructure to support them. You're not starting from scratch.
Where are the main hubs?
The Algarve has the largest concentration, especially of British and Northern European retirees. There's a huge Facebook community there, over 87,000 members, which gives you an idea.
Wow.
Lisbon is probably the most diverse, very cosmopolitan, attracts people from all over the world. Porto's community is growing fast, also quite international. Their Facebook group has over 46,000. And Cascais, near Lisbon, is known for being more upscale, with long-established British and American communities.
Are there specific clubs or groups?
Oh, yes. Lots of social clubs, sports clubs, interest groups, and organizations like AFPOP, that's the Association of Foreign Property Owners in Portugal. They provide support, information, social events. It really helps with settling in. What's fascinating here is that immediate social connection and the cultural immersion that's available right away.
So it sounds like you can plug into a community fairly easily. Okay, let's get practical again. What about the actual move? Infrastructure, visas, banking, how does that stack up?
Portugal's invested significantly in its infrastructure. Digital connectivity is generally excellent. Widespread fiber optic internet, 5G is rolling out. You get good speeds, over 100 Mbps on average, for around 30 to 50 euros a month.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And healthcare infrastructure, as we mentioned, is strong with over 230 hospitals. Plus, there's an increasing focus on accessibility in public spaces, which is important for retirees.
Now the big one, visas. How easy is it for a retiree to get permission to live there?
It's actually quite accessible, which is a major draw. The main route for retirees is the D7 visa, sometimes called the retirement visa or passive income visa.
Okay, the D7. What are the requirements for that in 2025?
Financially, the minimum passive income requirement is based on the Portuguese minimum wage. For 2025, that translates to needing to show 870 euros per month for a single applicant. That's about 10,448 annually.
And for a couple?
You need an additional 50% for a spouse or partner, and then an additional 30% for each dependent child.
What kind of income counts? Pensions?
Yes, pensions, Social Security benefits, income from renting out property, returns from investments, annuities. Basically, any stable, regular passive income source is usually accepted.
Right. And once you have the D7 visa, what are the residency rules? Do you have to live there full time?
You get an initial residence permit that's valid for 2 years. Then you can renew it for a further 3 years. To maintain residency, you do need to spend a significant amount of time there. The requirement is generally not being absent for more than 6 consecutive months or 8 non-consecutive months within each permit period. So effectively, you need about 16 months physical presence over the first 2 years.
And that leads to permanent residency eventually.
Yes, after 5 years of holding temporary residency, you can apply for permanent residency and also potentially for Portuguese citizenship.
Is the Golden Visa still an option? I know they changed that recently too.
It is still an option, yes. But the popular real estate investment route was removed in October 2023.
Ah, right.
So now the main paths are things like investing 500,000 euro in qualifying investment funds or significant contributions to scientific research or creating jobs through a business venture. The key difference is the residency requirement is much lower, just 7 days per year on average. So it suits people who want the residency status but don't plan to live there full time, at least initially.
Okay, makes sense. And once you're there, setting up the practical stuff like a bank account, easy.
Generally, yes. Pretty straightforward. You'll need your passport, your Portuguese tax number, the NEF, proof of address, which can sometimes be your address back home initially, and proof of income. Most banks ask for a small minimum deposit, maybe 250 euro, $300, to open the account.
Are there banks that are particularly good for expats?
Some are often recommended, yeah. Activo Bank is popular, Millennium BCP, Novo Banco, Santander. They often have services tailored for international clients, sometimes English-speaking staff, or online banking in English.
Can you open an account before you even move?
Yes, there are services that allow you to open an account remotely, often through a lawyer or a specialized agency. It usually costs a bit, maybe €289 to €350 for the service, but it can be convenient to have it set up ahead of time.
And day-to-day banking, is it modern?
Very much so. Portugal has a really efficient system called multi-banco. It's an interbank network connecting almost all ATMs, but it's more than just cash withdrawals. You can pay bills, top up phones, buy train tickets, pay taxes, all right at the ATM. It's incredibly versatile.
Wow.
And they also have MBWay, which is a very popular mobile payment app linked to your phone number for easy transfers and payments in shops. So yeah, managing the logistics is quite streamlined for international retirees.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. How easy is it to actually settle in and get around once you land? Let's talk transport.
Transport is another area where Portugal really shines, especially for seniors.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, the National Railway Company, CP, offers a fantastic 50% discount on train tickets for anyone over 65.
50%. Does that apply to tourists too, or just residents?
It applies to everyone over 65, tourists and residents alike. You just need ID to prove your age. So for example, a standard train ticket from Lisbon to Porto might be around €27, but over 65, you'd pay about 13 or 14 euro.
That's a significant saving for exploring the country.
It really is. And within cities, public transport is generally efficient and affordable too. Monthly passes are available in Lisbon. The Navigante Pass covering the whole metropolitan area is around €40. In Porto, the Andante Pass is about €30 for the central zones. These cover buses, trams, metro.
What about driving if you want your own car?
If you become a resident, you typically need to exchange your foreign driver's license for a Portuguese one within 90 days.
Okay.
It involves getting a medical certificate and submitting some documents in Portuguese, costs around €30. It's a process you need to go through.
And if you're just visiting or haven't got residency yet?
Non-residents can generally drive on their home country license for up to 185 days.
Good to know. Now, the language question. This often worries people. How essential is it to speak Portuguese? How widely spoken is English?
This is another area where Portugal scores surprisingly well. Our source notes it ranks 6th globally in the EF English Proficiency Index.
6th. That's very high.
It is. So especially in the main cities, tourist areas like the Algarve, and within key services like healthcare, banking, and even some government offices, you'll find English is quite widely spoken and understood.
So getting by initially without fluent Portuguese is feasible?
Absolutely. You can manage daily life, handle official business, access healthcare, quite comfortably using English in many situations. But what's fascinating here is the balance. You can get by with English, which lowers the initial barrier. Yet there are so many rich opportunities to actually learn Portuguese and integrate more deeply if you want to.
What kind of opportunities are there for learning?
Lots of options. There are language schools, some even offering programs specifically designed for the 50-plus age group, though they can be a bit pricey, maybe around €1,300 for an intensive week. Many municipalities offer free Portuguese classes for residents. Private tutors are available, maybe $20–40 an hour, plus loads of online platforms, apps, and language exchange meetups in the cities.
So it's accessible if you want to make the effort.
Definitely. You can choose your level of immersion.
Okay, so we've covered living costs, health, safety, lifestyle, practicalities. Let's talk about property. Buying a place there. What does that look like now and how does it compare?
Well, despite economic headwinds elsewhere, Portugal's property market has shown remarkable resilience. The forecast mentioned in our source suggests 5.8% growth for 2025. That's quite strong compared to the EU average, which is facing potential declines.
Interesting. What are typical prices like?
The source cited a national median price of around $1,819 per square meter in late 2024. That was up about 10.8% year over year, showing continued demand.
But that's a national average, right? It must vary hugely.
Oh, massively. In the prime markets, think of Lisbon city center, you might be looking at 4,000 per square meter or more. Porto, maybe around 3,000. Cascais, $3,500. Along the Algarve coast, perhaps 2,800 on average.
Still significantly less than many other Western European capitals or prime coastal areas.
Generally, yes. And then you have the value markets. If you look inland, central Portugal, you can find nice property starting from maybe 130,000. The northern interior, perhaps from 150,000. Even in the beautiful Alentejo region, you might find village houses or small farms from around 180,000 points.
So options across different budget levels. Are there restrictions on foreigners buying property?
No, generally no restrictions on nationality for buying property in Portugal.
And the costs involved in buying? Taxes? Fees?
You need to budget for a property transfer tax called IMT. It's progressive, ranging from 0% up to 8% depending on the property value and type. Then there's stamp duty, which is a flat 0.8% of the purchase price, plus notary and registration fees, usually around 1,000 to 2,000 euro, and legal fees, typically 1–2% of the price if you use a lawyer, which is highly recommended.
And ongoing costs, property taxes.
The annual property tax is called IMI. It's calculated on the tax value of the property, which is usually lower than the market value, and the rate is set by the local municipality, typically between 0.3% and 0.5%, so relatively low compared to many countries.
And still no wealth tax.
Correct. No general wealth tax in Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you decide to rent out your property, say, part of the year, potential rental yields are often cited in the 4–6% range.
Okay. So if we pull this all together, comparing Portugal to other popular retirement dreams, maybe Spain, France, Italy, what's the bottom line?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, what emerges is that Portugal has really transitioned. It's moved beyond just being seen as a tax haven, which was largely due to the NHR. Now, it stands out as a more comprehensive, high-value retirement destination based on a wider set of factors.
Let's recap those comparative advantages.
Right. Safety. Portugal ranks 7th globally. Spain is 23rd, Italy 33rd, France way down at 87th, according to the Global Peace Index data cited. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Cost of living, as we said, significantly lower than Spain, around 12% cheaper. France, 29% cheaper. Italy, 18% cheaper. Germany, 28.5% cheaper, using Portugal as the baseline.
Property prices.
Again, it's a big difference. That median price per square meter in Portugal, 1,819, compares very favorably to Spain, around 4,015, France, over 5,200, and Italy, around 3,900 euros based on the source data. You get more for your money.
And taxes overall.
Even without the NHR for new folks, the overall system is arguably simpler and potentially more advantageous for many. No wealth tax, unlike Spain and France. Lower unified property taxes compared to the complex regional variations elsewhere. It makes the financial planning aspect much clearer and often still more favorable.
So it seems while the end of the NHR program was a big headline, Portugal's appeal for retirees really does run much deeper. It's not just about one single benefit. This deep dive really highlights that powerful combination. The living costs making your money go further, the top-notch healthcare, that exceptional safety record, the welcoming expat communities, a resilient property market, and of course, all that sunshine.
Exactly. It's the sum of the parts. And all this suggests that 2025, well, it could still be an optimal time to consider a move, perhaps before property prices potentially climb further as demand continues. Whether you're drawn to the coast, the city, or the countryside, Portugal still presents a really compelling package for a fulfilling retirement, those golden years.
So it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? What aspect of a Portuguese retirement, maybe it's digging into the rich culture or connecting with that vibrant expat scene. Maybe it's just the simple pleasure of consistent sunshine, or perhaps the deep peace of mind that comes from feeling safe and having great healthcare nearby. What aspect would truly define your golden years there? And maybe, just maybe, what small step could you take this week to explore that particular aspect a little further?